another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Now, a few weeks ago, I made a video about brands that lose a ton of value. Well, today, I wanted to do the opposite. I want to talk about brands that actually retain value rather well, and may even give you a nice return. Now, to a lot of you watch collecting veterans, this may be well, pretty obvious to you guys, but to a lot of my new viewers, they might not know. So today I'm going to talk about brands that retain value pretty well, from the big boys to some of the independents, but I'm not going to talk about the real niche guys like George Daniels and Lange Heine and Kari Voutilainen. A lot of those guys retain great value, but I'm keeping it to producers that make 1,000 watches or more per year, which is still a very small number. Of course, before we get started, ironically, today I'm wearing the Seiko SKX. This is one of the lowest end watches in my collection, but a watch I adore and I wear all the time. Also, guys, let me point you into the direction of my website. That's delraywatch.com. We just got a bunch of new watches, a very tasty Jaeger Grand Reverso Duo, as well as a ton of watches that have been put on sale for our summer special over in the hot deals section. That's delraywatch.com. Go check it out. And we also buy and repair watches if that's what you need. But let's get right into it. And of course, these are in no particular order. So, the first brand is Rolex. Now, why does Rolex retain value? Well, it's all about supply and demand. While Rolex's supply may very well be the biggest in the industry, their sports models are really in demand. That's another thing, guys. When we're talking about brands that retain value, not every watch the brand makes retains excellent value. I mean, Rolex does better than most in almost every brand line, apart from maybe the Cellini, but their sports line is the cream of the crop. That's the Submariner, the GMT Master, and particularly in steel. Now, why in steel? Well, that's because they're more affordable. A lot more guys can afford to buy a $9,000 Submariner than a $30,000 Submariner. So while the gold variation is always going to be more expensive than the steel is more affordable, thus more in demand, and the discount or premium you may pay, it's going to be a bigger premium over MSRP or a much smaller discount under MSRP if that's what you're going to go with. Now, of course, as I said, it's all about demand, so watches like the new Pepsi, the Batman, the Hulk, these really do have a heavy premium. They just do rather well. However, the 41 millimeters do better than the 36s, and we're not even going to mention the ladies' watches. Those can be had heavily discounted. Now, most watch brands lose quite a bit of value if bought new. So the fact that Rolex's pretty much entire sports range does pretty well is pretty special. The next big brand, which a lot of you guys may think is pretty obvious, is Patek Philippe. But actually, this is a lot smaller encompassing than you may think. This really only extends to a few of their core models. So every Nautilus in steel holds value extremely well. In fact, for a 5711, you're going to be paying a massive premium, almost double the value. And their annual calendars do rather well as well. But a lot of their other watches don't hold value particularly well. Their perpetual calendars, in particular the non-round ones, can be had deeply discounted. Their golden ellipse line also does rather poorly. However, I'd say the majority of their line fares fairly well. But once again, the sports models are the cream of the crop here, and some of the limited edition Calatravas. Patek Philippe also has their application pieces, which are super complicated. If you guys want to know about the Patek Philippe application process, link to a video I made right up top. But these are pieces which Patek Philippe picks and chooses who they sell to, and these, of course, are very rare. So there might not be a huge demand, but the supply is tight, and therefore they hold value rather well. Next, we're going to talk about a newcomer in the watch space, a relative newcomer, and this is very rare for a brand like this to retain value. But we're going to talk about F.P. Journe. One of the few brands where the watchmaker's namesake, Francois-Paul Journe, is still alive. They seem to hold value very, very well, particularly their chronomètre bleu, which is, trading well above retail right now, because once again, it is their more affordable piece in the $20,000 range. Their limited edition Black Series also does very well, but generally, F.P. Journe trades very close or above retail, very close to retail or above retail. Apart from their aluminum sports line and their Elegant. Now, this is rare for a brand that their sports line does worse than their dress line, but F.P. Journe's DNA is definitely much more into the dressy pieces, not known for their sports watches, and that is why I think we see the role reversal there. But F.P. Journe holds value extremely well. We also have a Richard Mille, watches that pretty much command massive premiums, where you can walk into the boutique and they sell to the highest bidder. This is one of those cases where they don't make many watches. They're very popular with the ultra-wealthy socialites, and it's just cool to be seen with a Richard Mille. Now, this only really extends to the tonneau-shaped, not so much the round ones, which can be had at a discount. Even then, not a huge discount. But Richard Mille, another newcomer like F.P. Journe that makes a ton of waves. And then the last brand on this list is Audemars Piguet, part of the Holy Trinity. Now, this comes with a caveat. Audemars Piguet really only hold value very well in the Royal Oak and pretty well in the Royal Oak offshore lines. Once you get into the Jules Audemars and you get into the Millenaries and the Edward Piguet lines, well, you're going to get bigger discounts than shopping at Walmart. So really only extends once again to their sporty line, their iconic line. Not quite as well as Patek Philippe. However, much better than most other brands. Also, as I said, if you want to pick up a budget AP, Millenary and Jules Audemars is where it's at. This is just one of those things that's, I think, based off the fact that the Royal Oak is so iconic, so well known, and people strive to own it. It's kind of an aspirational piece, so to speak, because of the fact that it's so recognizable. Now, guys, that's my list for right now, but it doesn't mean that other pieces from other brands don't hold value. There's a couple Jaegers here and there, a couple Omegas here and there. Every brand has a watch that holds value pretty well for the most part. Watches are not investments. Watches are luxury items that people enjoy, but just like a car, are worth a fraction of the price once used. So while there are outliers, that's just what they are, is outliers. And 95% of them obviously will lose value. But I wanted to make this video, which hopefully you guys found interesting, about the exception to these rules. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for sticking around for another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Please don't forget to like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any content. Thank you so much, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.